I seal that connection to the best of my ability. Otherwise, every other connection, every other tread, you just don't repair a tread in position. You take out the 4 bolts, you rip it out of its position. You got to clean this side, you got to clean that side, you got to clean the treads up, put them back, and then rebolt it and seal it in silicone. My clips that hold the fire escape is usually an angle clip that holds it, and that clip comes out. And you can put, what is it?
What's your average cost to repair?
A 5-story fire escape on average for a 10-year guarantee will probably bring anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 for an average repair with a full paint job. Yes?
I just repaired 2-3 stories for $80,000. Well, we had some extensive damage.
Yeah, again, just so you know, what we're building here, just to give you an example, let's say we have offices in Boston, offices in LA, because we actually work nationwide. But let's just say I wanted to work in Boston. There's 8,500 fire escapes in Boston. You give me a fire escape a day, I got 40 years worth of work plus, but I have to get a crazy crew or whatever. So what we're showing you here, this industry standard guidelines and stuff, is not to basically say that nobody can do this work. It's to basically set the tone so that inspectors are writing the right violations. You will write repair, paint, test. That'll lock people in to get engineers, to get vendors that are licensed, and to decide whether you're going to get a certification or a load test. Yes?
As a building inspector, I think it's dangerous for you to tell somebody how to do something or what to do. I think you're telling them that failure to maintain the fire escape is the right way to go. But when you start telling them they have to paint, they have to do this, then you're locked in because you're now giving advice as to how the problem should be solved.
Well, I'm just using the code. The code says there's 3 parts of your code. There's a maintenance code and there's a certification code. I'm just repeating what the code says. The code says you will maintain your fire escape, which is the paint job.
No, I agree with that, except that you're telling the inspector, telling these people what they should do, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah, what we need to do is cite the violation.
Right.
That's it. Who cite the violation, and then, we're looking at buildings, and you got to keep in mind, these guys are looking at everything. Fire alarms, sprinklers, and there's different aspects to that inspection. Okay, are they doing a quarterly test? Are they doing the annual flow test? So I would suggest to you that it's more than an inspection; it's maintenance and testing.
Right.
Now, not only for fire escape, for everything. If you're not doing maintenance, and you can't show a log that you're maintaining the emergency lights, that you're checking them once a year, running the generator. If you're not doing the maintenance, if you're not doing those tests, that inspection is only one part of it. I look at it as 3 different prongs. And if you can't demonstrate to me that you're doing maintenance on the entire building, including the fire escape, we know what's wrong.
We have a 5-year confidence test and a 1-year that I'm going to show you. But again, when I say that, for example, in other states with the fire department, they actually have to write something. Repair this tread, or they saw something visual, and so they either cited the deterioration code or the structural code. So that's what on theirs. So if in your violation you just cite the code, but you don't cite what the problem is. But there's been the scrape and paint violations that we get as the first thing that comes out of the owner's mouth. Not that they show us the violation. Very rare. We go, oh, my inspector was just here. 30 years I've owned this building. He's never asked me for this. Now he wants some crazy new code, and he wants me to repair and paint my fire escape. So how much to paint my fire escape? That's all they think. That's all. And that's when we start.
You're right there, and I think that from my perspective, we have been doing this. We are getting the certifications. I think where I'm vulnerable is I'm getting more of an opinion letter from the engineer than a guarantee. That's where I think we're vulnerable.
So we're going to move right into that. Let's move it from the opinion letter into an actual final exam for these engineers. Let's go right to it. Again, we talked about all the ladders that are out there. Weighted ladders, again, so that they don't come guillotining down. Because you have some ladders you just let go, they go 10 to 15 miles an hour, those things go straight down. Roof ladder access, that has to be looked at. These flop-out ladders that come out and conk people on the head, we have to tell people that those have been a fix that was illegal, because if I can hurt a kid or a fireman, forget the wind blowing these things and knocking somebody in the head, killing a dog. You know what I'm saying? We say that these things have to be permanent or slide ladders. You can't have a flop-out ladder. And there's not many up here in Massachusetts, but I've seen in other states where the flop-out ladder became where you have to guide it down with your own hand. It's just, these things are a mess. And they'll come down and look like that, but if they come down the wrong time, they can't hurt or kill somebody. All right, confidence test. The only thing we have right now in California, which is Reg 4, they must be inspected every year. There's no guidelines on how to inspect. They expect you to, since you're in the business, And in California, an engineer can inspect a fire escape. It has to be a Reg 4. He has to go get, an engineer has to go get a Reg 4 license. So you got all these guys that can inspect fire escapes in LA that now can't inspect fire escapes because they don't have a Reg 4 and that $1,000. So it's one of those days. We need to make money. So we got, in all of LA, there's probably 25 guys that have a Reg 4 license for fire escapes only. But you know what I liked about theirs? The front sheet. This front sheet that I like that I use as a confidence test, it gets all the critical information, including permit information, building inspector's information, permit number, and fire department. So we get everybody's information on the front page. That's one of the things I like. We started generating a confidence test, and this confidence test has page 1, but then we started asking critical questions, yes, no questions. Is all the rust removed out of the trip? Is all the rust removed out of the supports? And we hit every critical connection, railings, supports, cantilevers. We asked every single question on here, and there's a structural review and there's a general review, such as, is all the windows operable? Can they get to the fire escape? Is there no obstruction? Is there any lighting? We put it all on there. This is the information that we started sharing, and what we did is we shared this with Seattle and Tacoma, and what they did, because they couldn't use my test, but they used my test as a guide, and they did the same thing. So here's page 1, has all the critical information, and there's page 2, and they ask yes, no questions. So what you need here in Massachusetts is a critical questionnaire. Now this is going to get you closer and closer to certification, which is the word guarantee, because they're claiming that they've checked all these things. It's no longer an opinion letter. Now, Tacoma has not only a 5-year rule, they also have a 1-year rule where the owner must walk through with an official every year, and they have a 1-page questionnaire, and this is the annual checklist. Now, this annual checklist is the owner comes in and asks these very same questions, after they've passed a 5-year with this engineer. For the next 4 years till the next 5-year cycle, the owner has to walk through, and they can, put this together with a walkthrough by the fire official or building inspector on the yearly inspections of a commercial building. And they have to just answer, listen, I've looked at the supports, I've looked at the paint and all the moving parts, everything looks good. In general, to me, I don't see anything broken, no trees are falling on my fire escape, and they sign, and they hand that during the yearly inspection back to the inspector. So we kind of like that Tacoma wanted the owners involved every year walking through the fire escapes, not every 5 years. So here's actually let me show you the City of Boston. This is the City of Boston affidavit. The only thing that's missing is you can take this part out. That's my part. I put that in there. These are little questions that I put in there, but otherwise, this is all you get minus this. They just want to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with 101.3. That's all you have to sign as a G3 guy or an engineer. So I put in these questions, and some of the stuff I've submitted, up the chain, down the chain, wherever it has to go. And these questions: is the staircase, is the cantilever, is there a continuous catwalk? I mean, I popped some of my questions in there, but this is a formal document, so this is just a little bit of an insert on my end, trying to see if I can get the city to say, you need to ask more critical questions, because people are doing this drive-by, fly-by, give me a check in the window, and here's the document for your building inspector. So these opinion letters are coming from, I believe, not just Boston. This is not a Boston batch. Seattle, Chicago, Texas, Corpus. I've been in all these cities. I inspect in all these cities. They all have the same problem we have here. There's no critical review. There's no critical examination by the engineer because there's no sheriff. Nobody's watching. They just want a piece of paper so I can stick it in my folder. And if the engineer says that it's good to me. But there's no critical review. We created documents, which is the repair guidelines. So we'll send this to you. We can, we took out our name is not in here anywhere, but it's just basic guidelines on how to maintain a fire escape. It tells you what to do with platforms, what to do with treads. And all it says is, we already talked about that. Remove 100% of the rust, change the bolt, seal it. I think we're done with the repair guidelines. Oh, by the way, EPA now is in here. You must have an EPA renovator's license. If some of you know it or don't know it, anybody can get an EPA renovator's license. You take a class, you start at 8 o'clock in the morning, by 6 o'clock at night, they give you a certificate. You pay $179, and painters, contractors, everybody, they're just going to teach you how to handle the lead. And yes, fire escapes, all fire escapes older than 1978. Anybody have any fire escapes newer than 1978? So So all your fire escapes have lead, which means you can't weld on them. Well, it's okay because 98% of them are bolted anyway. Why would you allow weld on them anyway? And every fire escape can be fixed with a bolt and a gusset. And every weld on a fire escape can be reinforced with a bolt and give you that word guarantee, certification. So, we'll talk about the industry standards here. The EPA, the industry standards is, whenever we speak with anybody, we always send them our credentials. We have engineers on staff that basically work with us. Whenever we have a city that says, I don't take a G3 license, we bring engineers from in the area, or, you know, in some cases we have engineering firms that represent 40 states. So I had to have a guy in Iowa. I did a job in Iowa where I couldn't find a local engineer that wanted to sign off. I had to fly my guy in out of Seattle, who's licensed in 40 states, into Cedar Rapids to sign off on a 10-story. He literally flew in that morning. I picked him up. We drove him down. He walked up to the fire escape, walked down to the fire escape, and got back on the plane with me, and we both flew back to Seattle. Because I couldn't find anybody in Iowa that wanted to sign the document. So these things occur. It just gets... So, industry standards. When somebody's inspecting your fire escape, do you expect them minimally to mark up the fire escape? So if I'm an inspector, and my criteria to you is I'm going to come in and I want to mark up the fire escape for Joe that I'm charging either $500 or $1,500. Do you want me to walk with my spray can that I bought for $2 at Home Depot, and I walk up and I say, this is no good, and this is no good, and that's no good, and that's no good. Whatever I can reach, and I can't, reach places I can't reach, right? And generate a report some kind of photograph, so then I take out my camera and I take photographs. Does it have to be as pretty as this with all this little garb and stuff, or can it be, on your PC you can print 9 per page or 4 per page photographs? Would you want all the violation photographs as part of the submittal when the guy did an inspection? And then after this client gets all his fire escape marked, can Joe homeowner break a bolt and put in a bolt? Okay. If he has the will and the skill, can Joe homeowner change a bolt? Can Joe homeowner get his uncle Freddie, who's a mechanically inclined, to help him fix his fire escape?
No.
Yeah.
Not in the commercial code.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant, right. If it's a commercial, you have to have a licensed professional to do the work. I'm talking about if it's going to be a home repair. Can a homeowner fix his own fire escape?
Sure.
Okay. Now, with this and everything is marked, can a vendor show up now and knows exactly what the engineer wants fixed? So the engineer has a duty, and it's on the certificate that says that he must identify it on the fire escape with paint. It says right on the confidence test. Or he must, on a drawing, identify what the problems are. How easy does that make it for the vendor to repair the fire escape accordingly? Pulling a permit, the vendor must pull a permit. Do you need a permit to paint a fire escape? No. You need a permit to repair a fire escape. So, isn't that one more set of eyeballs watching it to make sure that the guy's license, workers' comp, renovator's license? It's not happening. A lot of times you guys just get the certificate that shows up in the mail about a property that you didn't even know had a fire escape, and one of the things you don't ask is, was there any work done to this fire escape to make it certifiable? Where's the permit? And that will stop getting some of these guys out there that are just welding fire escapes because they're not giving you the guidelines and the criteria. If you want to open up your brochures, let's start talking about tags. We're towards the end. I got another 15, 20 minutes, guys, and then I'll open it up. Anybody wants to see me, give me cards.
Do you want to take a break at all, or do you want to go right through?
Yes.
I got a thing for you. I hear you where you want to go, but why don't you go through the code amendment process and amend the code? You can put the criteria together, present it to the BDRS, and make it part of the building code.
I can. I've tried. I've made my only contact, just and I've had a lot more success. For example, in Seattle, they've adopted everything I'm showing you here has been adopted.
Right, but that's Seattle. I'm talking, you could do it in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Oh, I do it.
All you have to do is call up the BDRS, anyone can make an amendment to the code, you put together your list and everything. If you sell it to the BDRS and they adopt it, guess what? You just fix the entire state of Massachusetts.
If you just tell me who it is, I'll speak with whoever you say I have to speak with.
All right.
Hey, why don't we take 5 quick minutes and come right back? Okay, all right, 5 minutes, quick.
If anybody wants to give me a card or wants to get a card from me,
Just put on there. Certification. Or no inspection on
Did you get a chance to look at the Framingham stuff that I gave over? The tags with the Framingham?
Oh, yes.
Exam? Did you guys, you get a chance to peek at those?
Yes.
We picked that.
Yeah, we,
It was, by folio, I think we had sent it out.
Here's the town planner right there, Mark Hughes.
No, I sent it out to Mike.
Mike Foley, yeah.
Right. It was basically these tags as a draft, as a sample of what it would look like if it said the word Framingham on it. If it said the word, and the confidence test that we have. So if anybody wants a copy of that, I can send you what we've been working as a model for Framingham. If you want that, I can forward that to you guys. I just need to get emails or cards from anybody, and I can show you what these tags look like.
just a Word document that we can.
Yeah. Well, actually, I already tweaked it. I already put it in, and I'll explain right now what the tags are and what this is. Now, this is already in use in Seattle. So Seattle, after that tragic accident that happened out there, they had us come out and we talked about the confidence test. We talked about the tags. They have this system. Every fire escape in Seattle must have a white tag. If it's white, it's all right. And this tag has not only the information of when it got inspected, when the next inspection is, this is just like an elevator tag. And it has the phone number of who the inspector was, so that they, in case anything goes wrong, guess who they can call. It has all the information here of who repaired it, their license and phone number here, who repaired it. And it has the code right here. And this is in a plastic tag. And this thing sits just like that, 7 to 10 feet off the ground, tagged to the fire escape, permanently mounted to the fire escape, so that whenever you do your walkthrough, how soon can you find out when the next inspection is due? So now this is an idea that they're using. All fire escapes must be tagged white in Seattle. Now, in the meantime, when any inspector goes out, you must leave a tag. You either leave a yellow or a red tag. A yellow tag means it has deficiencies. It doesn't mean that it's functional. It means it has deficiencies, but there's nothing life-threatening. And if it has life-threatening, you put a red. At all times, in the disclaimer on these tags, which they didn't have on the other tags there, I put in that the owner is still held responsible while it's under a yellow and a red. The engineer accepts no liability. The only time an engineer will have liability is on a white.
I just stepped out, so excuse me, but you put right back on here. I know you guys efficient human beings.
That's right.
That's right, we got a big problem there. You're really looking at
Life safety issue. Fire watch. By the way, in California, if I inspect a fire escape and there's a life safety issue, I can't leave the site until I call the fire marshal. The fire department, because they're the ones who run the inspections. And I have to wait there and put command over to the guy, and then I can leave. And they will order fire watches and do whatever. But yes.
Tag it and leave.
Huh?
You can't just tag it and leave.
Right. But a lot of owners don't want to see, we tag all our fire escapes as part of our standard, but it's not required in Massachusetts or any other state that you tag fire escapes. We recommend, as part of the process, imagine every tag in your city and or in Massachusetts must be tagged like an elevator. So somebody is going to have out there, so over the next 1 to 3 years, over the next 5 years, as you identify every fire escape, just put a tag on it. You don't put whites, only engineers can put the white tags. Now imagine, this is just a suggestion, that as you start identifying fire escape as an inspector, you can only put a yellow or you can put a red if it's got dangling trays. And all that tag does, when you read it, you read the first thing it says to do. Step number 1, if you've got a yellow or a red, and this is when the tag is it has your sitting information over here. Contact fire official or building official. Step number 2, have fire escape inspected. Contact structural engineer or other fire escape inspector. And number 3, load test a fire escape or provide an equivalence, a certification of some sort that satisfies the building officials. So on the tag, it already says what to do. Now, this is going to take 1 to 3 years, 1 to 5 years for you to identify every fire escape in your city. If you do that permit thing, you just make every permit that gets pulled. In there, somewhere on your permit process, ask the little box, what's your means of egress? Internal or external? If it's external, what do you need? A current certification. You're not ordering anything, you're not even there. You just need a copy of the current certification, which must be done every 5 years, and I'm just signing off your permit. I'm trying to quote. That's what Boston does right now. I get calls all the time in Boston that somebody put in a cord, screwed in a light bulb, changed the faucet. And now they can't close this permit until they get a certification. So that was one of the things that resulted from this Channel 7 news report, is that's what they did. You can call City of Boston and ask them how they implemented that piece. But now all permits trigger a request for the means of egress, internal or external. Because if it's internal, close the permit. If it's external, I need a copy. You're not forcing them to inspect. The fact that they haven't been inspecting is going to be obvious when they say, I haven't done that in 20 years. Well, I can't close this permit.
I'm not sure you legally can hold an electrical or plumbing permit for...
Speak. No, you don't. It's let them know you wish. It's closing it.
Yeah, closing it either. I mean...
Well, speak with Boston. They're doing that. I don't...
Boston should have the authority to not close off that permit. It has nothing to do with the incident.
Well, maybe that's just the knowledge. Maybe you don't even use it to stop the permit, but you use it as a check, and then you go, you know what? Okay, here's a permit. It's closed. But by the way, now there's another violation.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, they don't close the permit.
They can't. Law that says we can't. Yeah, no, it's close.
Okay, I'm not
You
here
can't
to...
hold the permit holder accountable for another department or another.
If you're going to use this as a trigger, again, once you get a fire escape tagged in the United States, just like an elevator, how simple is it going to be for a fireman in the middle of the night, smoky conditions, gets to a fire escape? What's he looking for in your city? 7 to 10 feet off the ground, permanently mounted to the fire escape, encased in plastic or mounted on the building. He sees what? White. If he sees a yellow or red, does he have justification to go back and get his ladder? So this is just one of the systems, okay?
Where do you have that standard of the 7 to 10 feet? Is there a standard for the fire escape? Is it part of your...
The answer is no. It's nowhere. But when you look at everything measured out there, all ladders end 7 to 10 feet off the ground. On average, the fire escape ladder, the last rung is 7 feet off the ground. In New Jersey, you can jump the last ladder rung can be 16 feet.
Well, they broke an ankle, you're not dead.
You know, so I'm not here to change the code. I'm just here to let you know all over the United
What
States.
standard maybe there's a standard that you want.
So if your company goes and inspects, say I need an evaluation, and you go on inspection, you red tag or yellow tag, you automatically CC the building official
Yeah.
in that community?
Yeah, every time.
No?
Yes. The way we do it is we tell everybody who call us up with an inspection, I need a fire escape violation. We educate the client out of that. Listen, the first thing you got to do is whoever you're going to call, structural engineers or fire escape inspectors, because they're Googling or whatever, they must contact the building official. Jim, we did that, right? We called you guys and said, hey, we're looking to inspect in your city because this client wants to remove a violation and we want to make sure we're qualified. So we went through the whole process.
Yeah.
And we tell the client, our report is not only to you, we must share this report with the building official because he's going to determine the oversight of this fire escape. And all repairs are going to need a permit. Now, was this done 5 years ago, Jim? Nobody was doing any of this stuff 5 years ago. It's still not being done today. A lot of your cities, you guys are getting fire escapes fixed in your city with no permit, in and out, and an engineer piece of paper shows up in the mail to throw in the file. We're trying to stop that. We're trying to say that in a process of fire escapes that are 50 to 75 years old that are getting repaired, there should be a repair permit so that way somebody shows up there and pulls and has workers' comp and liability. Somebody's qualified and licensed, is now an electrician fixing a fire escape. If this happens, guys with welding machines on the back of the truck welding their fire escapes shut. So the fact that, and even when you get a certificate in the mail, go back it out. Hey, engineer, was any work done to this? Great. There was supposed to be a permit, so I'll take your certificate. By the way, I got a new certificate that I need you to sign, but I need the vendor to call me and pull a permit. It's a delayed permit. It's a, I don't know if you have fees for not pulling permits, but you can go through that process and just fill it in. Now you're going to find out who fixed it. Oh, it was an uncle of mine with a welding machine in the back of the truck. He fixed it. Well, that was, and is this a residential or commercial building? Well, it's a commercial building. Well, he has to be a licensed. You go through the whole process. And on the confidence test, it has that information. It has a box for that, so I'll show you where it is. These confidence tests that I have is available, again, if we're doing a city, we're more than welcome to share another city so you know what you can do. And you can just have your people paste your name into the top. So whatever we did for them, we'll either put your name on the top or we'll give it to you, and it's either in a PDF or a Word document. Just change it out. Our name is not anywhere in it. It's just industry standard guidelines because they didn't exist. You guys know who invented the airbag? Mercedes. Do you know if they took a patent out of that or not? They didn't. You know why?
Go into liability.
Nope. They said this was too important for the auto industry for us to have a patent and be the only cars for 17 years that have airbags. So they put the information out and they said, everybody, airbags are cool, they're going to save lives. do whatever you want with them, and nobody could patent it because it was public knowledge. This information that I'm sharing with you is basically public knowledge, so that every vendor that shows up in your city that wants to work has some standard. Every inspector that wants to show up in your city has some standards. But also every inspector in your city has some standards. And I have some videos online that you guys can go online. I'll show one video on how to properly inspect the fire escape without getting on it. I'm going to show you guys how to look up and immediately determine whether it needs a paint job or whether it needs repair.
Your website?
No, it's on YouTube. It's called Fire Escape Academy. But I'll show you in a second. By the way, guys, we've taught all the housing inspectors, both in Chinatown and Springfield, we've taught all the inspectors this type of class. And this is some of the walk-arounds that we do. We've done fire departments, building departments. It's going to take a while to get these laws changed, guys, so don't think we're going to do this overnight. So let's move right into the code here. This is tagging in Seattle. So when you walk by, you can easily read that from down below. This is how big their tags. They want 11 by 19 inches. Some crazy size. But I think that all the tags should be 8.5 by 11 is more than sufficient, 7 to 9 feet off the ground. And this is what a yellow looks like, this is what a red looks like, and this is what a white. Some critical information was missing in here, so we modified the tags to have more information on it. But this is all the information they want. This is how you verify the inside of a building. You got to open it up. A lot of destructive testing. This is another way to do it. You drill holes next to the steel. Now, with that same hole, with that same drill, if I drill 5 inches out over there, instead of drilling it right there to determine, because I have to put a little snake in it, and this is what my snake looks like going down, and I got to look at the steel on the left and the cement on the right, and I have to have all that kind of skill. If I take that same hole, which is a 3/4 hammer drill, and 5 inches away, I put a Hilti epoxy bolt in there, and then I clip it back to the existing thing that looked good anyway to begin with. There was no rusty tear or anything blowing up. Do I have to verify this connection now once I put an epoxy bolt? You know, one takes $250 to investigate. The other one takes $25 to do. Because after this, I got to fill this hole with cement again. So why do destructive testing? If all of a sudden I'm concerned about 3% of my fire escape is invisible to me, which is welded connections and cement connections, and through both on building, I can go into a building, I can drill a 1/2 inch hole in that sheetrock, because it's a wood structure, and I can put that little snake in there. Can I verify a plate with a snake and they can take a photograph of the things that they sell at Home Depot or not? That's the verification. I don't have to duplicate a connection if I can verify it. But sometimes it's cheaper, especially on cement buildings, to drill the same hole 5 inches away and just epoxy bolt it. And if that fails, who gets sued? Hilti. I didn't. I installed it.
We had an issue on the big dish, just the box.
Yeah.
And so forth, and then, it's a sunny day out, but what if it's raining and snowing and it's cold out? What's the application of that?
Exactly. In Seattle, you have to drill the holes. And then they have a hole inspector that comes out and says, you got to look down the hole and you got to put some things inside it to verify before you can do it. That's just another step. Meaning, is there a whole verification process here? But when you have 30, 40, 50 connections on a building, there's so much redundancy of the fire escape. Plus, you have the original that's still there. The epoxy bolt is just my new primary. The secondary stays. I don't blow out the secondary. So now I'm at 200% of what the law requires to attach that building in. So otherwise, in Seattle, they make you inspect the hole before you can even put an epoxy in there. So this is what it looks like when you start throwing those cameras in there. Load test. Somebody asked me about load test. Here's a load test. I've been at this since my dad dragged me into this business. 40 years. I've only done one load test in California. Here it is. And I did this by putting basically a weight down at the truck. Use the back of a truck as my load. And then with a monitor there and I come along in a lift, I basically exerted so many pounds, and then I load tested every floor all the way up. And then you have to have cables on this thing so that in case a floor wants to give way, the floors above it hold the floor below it in case it's up. But you know what a passing grade looks like, right? You guys know what a failing grade looks like? And somebody asked me, hey, you get on it, you stay near it, you go, what's involved? Risk. That's why you don't load test it. If I can refurbish the fire escape, let's give you an example.
Why'd you load test that one?
And there's a strength. He didn't have a load test. Nobody was requiring. He wanted a load test. It was a condo. And he goes, I want a load test. I said, But it's going to cost you X dollars. Because I don't care. Give it. I got tons of money. I said, okay, we'll load test it for you. But here's the thing. I got a 5-story building that needs $10,000 worth of repairs. And I can use the word certified, which in this room is an equivalent to guaranteed. Or I can load test it for 10 grand. 10 grand that I need to move bricks and lead and men and people around. The guy doesn't get a stick of paint for the 10 grand on the load test. And I waste 2 days or 3 days load testing whatever, the whole configuration, rentals of machines and all that crap. 10 grand he gets a refurbished fire escape, 10 grand he gets a load test, and I take all the money. Use it to cover all the costs associated. 10 grand refurbishment, certification. And every connection, 100% of every connection I have rebolted. 100% of every connection I can verify to you that it's free of any internal rust and sealed with 50-year silicone. 100% of all the connections tied back into the building have been verified and or they've been duplicated. In some cases, I can refurbish a portion of the fire escape and load test the rest because it's cheaper. So you can actually do a mix of the two. But once I refurbish every tread, every support, every rail, refurbished on a 50 to 75 to 100-year-old structure, which should have been done already, can I use the word certification, which is equivalent to the word guarantee? Because load test equals the word guarantee, doesn't it? Certification should be the same word, right? Because I have to do one or two. Load test it or give you some other form of guarantee. Isn't that the word refurbishment? Now, will I guarantee, will an engineer in your city sign off on a 50 to 75-year-old square head bolt or a rivet without load testing it? He can use the word guarantee once he load tests it, but can he give you the word guarantee or certification on a 50 to 75 or 100-year-old rivet or square head without load testing? So that's why he's going to use disclaimers. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, blah, 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 blah. But somewhere down at the end of his stuff, he says, this does not include things I couldn't see, defects, blah. You know, all kinds of things. I know, I steal all kinds of disclaimers from them. But then all of a sudden, where did these disclaimers go when we hit Chicago? And Chicago brought in the building official. Where does the disclaimers go? Can't use them because now they're saying, well, what is the official accepting? So now it's a question, what is he accepting? What's the critical examination? And so now the bar is being raised. So that's a load test. Deflection, no more than 3/16 deflection. Then it fails the load test. That means the material So I have my monitor. Load test 20% for 10 minutes. Then the remaining 60% for the remaining 20 minutes. They measure filters individually. Engineer oversight. Get an engineer that told us what to do. So engineers don't inspect fire escape, I mean load test fire escapes. They have a testing company implement the test that they do the criteria for. Okay. This is what live load tests look like. Right? This happens in a lot of cities, doesn't it? Big party outside. Very common in New York for all the kids at college to get together on the fire escape and drink it up. Hang out just like this. You go upstairs to the apartment up above. But this is what the failed load test looks like. One of my guys in Chicago, his father 4 years ago was doing this. Fell 7 stories. Died. Those just not people.
What's the picture?
That's an old picture from New York where people didn't have AC back in the 40s and the 50s. Guess where they slept? On the fire escape. Very famous. Firemen use fire escapes to get people out because there's no other way out. Firemen use fire escapes to get out of a building that's just basically everything's going to hell. People party and watch parades. Harvard Square. They're watching the parade, I think it was the Hasty Puddings Parade, and they're upstairs out of one of the buildings leaning on the molding of one of the very ornate old fire escapes, and boom, they pushed the molding cap off, which is the cast iron cap, and this projectile went down, missed a bunch of people sitting on the steps below, ricocheted and smacked somebody. So the ricocheting still caused some injuries, but this is what the inside of this or an epoxy bowl. Pick which one is cheaper. As soon as I open this, guess what happens? I got other issues now. I can't close this up now. Now we got to go into the building, deeper into the building. You know, all kinds of things need to be done. But if I leave this sleeping dog's lying and I mechanically fasten them with an epoxy bolt 5 inches away, do I have to deal with this anymore? Is that my primary anymore?
Now, are you having an engineer tell you how many bolts and stuff you need
Well,
to
every
replace what's
connection-
there, or?
Every connection needs another bolt. So if I have this, I need a connection for every support going into the wall. I don't need one for the bottom because the bottom is just the pressure, so I can put an angle plate next to it and just attach that way. And then I seal this as best I can. But this investigation is $250 a piece. An epoxy bolt is $25 to $50 a piece, whichever's cheaper and faster than their client. An epoxy bolt, because I got a 50, 75, 100-year-old structure, and the inspector wants a verification. So go in and verify, drill it, investigate it, have a mason come and open up all the bricks, or drill a 3/4 hole 5 inches away, and then mechanically fasten it. Now I'm at 200% of that connection into the wall. My primary is my Hilti bolt. My secondary is the original. We do a downtown walk around. So this is a downtown walk around with the fire department, teaching them what to look for.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
This is another downtown. This is Newark. So we'll walk with your departments. I'll show you how to look, but I'll show you that we've taken this and put it up online. Let me show you now on the confidence test if you want to. This confidence test, again, it's half the size, so imagine it's a full size. This confidence test you can get online right now from Seattle. Go to Seattle Fire Prevention, and you go to their website. You download either a PDF or a Word document, and you can copy this, and then you take their name out if you wish, and you can use this as just an industry standard document. You don't have to say it's a Massachusetts document. You can just say, hey, this is an industry standard document. And when you look at it, you'll see that I have the information on the front that includes everything, including the renovator's information, license numbers, permits, and everything. The questions here, and I can send you the model draft that we did for Framingham, if you guys want. It shows page 2, and it even talks all the way to the cantilevers, structural. And if you read, I don't know if anybody's been reading some of the questions. We even touch catwalks, and all catwalks must be continuous. How many fire escapes do you have that land on the roof and then the ladders down the other end? All fire escapes must be one continuous means of egress over a roof, on a steel catwalk, getting into that ladder to that stair, then down to the ground. It's not even covered, but we put it on here. We also put on here the yearly walkthrough. If you go back to the next page, we have some industry standard inspections. We have some industry standard repair guidelines. So at any time, see that top where it says Fire Escape Services, we can just knock that off and put your city. Because our name is not anywhere in the information, but it's just guidelines. Remove the rust, change the bolt, seal it up, paint
This
it.
is what you would send us that you sent to Framingham, or do you have this on your website?
We would send this as you can use it as a Word document, you can put it on your letterhead, you can do anything you want with this information. We make it industry standard documents that we give out to the city officials. You see the little diagrams here of how fire escapes are put together. We'll send you that. A lot of times you have engineers that are building new fire escapes. We send you sample drawings of what a ladder fire escape looks like, a spiral looks like, or what a roof catwalk system looks like. So we'll give you some of this. We'll even show you a proper attachment into the building. Guidelines here.
So you're going to forward this to Gene, and he can put it out to all of us?
Yeah. Again, this is pretty much a standard that we share this information, and right now, just so this fall we have you guys here on the 12th. If you know any other inspector, we're doing the Taunton one on the 12th, and then on the 19th we're doing it over here in Northampton. We're doing the Western Mass. So if you guys are have email blasts that you guys want to get the word out to somebody that they should attend the thing. It's getting recorded too, so a lot of times we try to put these up on YouTube so that you can review this the same information. But now let's go. I'll show you right now 2 places. So Fire Escape Engineers and Fire Escape Academies, 2 YouTube channels. And if you just type in Fire Escape Academy or Fire Escape Engineers, this is what you have available to you free online every day. So So Farscape Academy, when you get there, there's, and I can send you a playlist. So let's do a playlist of, I'm just going to play one. Me teaching Portland, Oregon was a very good group. So when you go there, you have throughout the cities, and you're going to get a class. It's usually 3 to 5 minutes long. So if I do one in Massachusetts with an inspector, I can go out with you. We'll do a standard, typical Farscape, ladder one, platform one.
Farscape Academy says training videos. We're here in Portland, Oregon. Not Oregon. We got John here, the inspector here. And let's take a look at it. First of all, let's pretend you can't see anything. 2 violations you can write. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. Don't jump on the heavy one yet. Structurally sound, must be kept painted. The easiest one to write is?
Hold on.
No. Paint. Stick to paint. You can write this from your car. So, and the rule of thumb is very simple. Must have more paint than rust or more rust than paint. What's this one have? More rust than paint or more paint than rust? Do you need anything else?
So the other Farscape that has more rust than paint. There's
And you write the violation? How? What's the 3 words you write in the violation?
Maintenance code is violated.
Repair, paint, test. Because they can test before or after the paint, it doesn't matter. So repair, paint it, test it. Right? Seems simple. A week ago, though, on this Farscape, they knew you were coming. The guys knew you were coming. And where are we? What's this address?
Second west corner.
They know you're coming, they paint the Farscape before you show up.
What building this is, right? But a week ago, the guy knew you were coming. And guess what he did to this Farscape before you came?
Threw a fast coat paint.
He did. He threw a paint job. So now you're stuck like, oh my God, I know there's a problem there. But it's shiny black now. What are you going to do? Let's look for something else. That's an indicator.
I went for the rust.
No. Let's look for something even easier. Let's look for the square bolts. This Farscape is as old as the building and it's 50 to 75 years old. If it has the original square bolts on it, and it's never been refurbished in its lifetime, is it suspect?
Yes.
So let's look for structural bolts. Do you see any squares or any rivets original? And you see on the support, you see some squares? So
Right through the ground, you find out
now.
shiny,
VR,
excellent bolts.
can you write one just on structural now?
That's the evidence of whether it's been maintained over 50,
You hit
75
the
years.
easy one, which is a paint job. The guy made it easy for you. But
So
he
you
made
think
it
it's shiny black or rusty brown?
Still, I found other issues.
You're looking for evidence of
50 to
maintenance.
75 years. I have no
Structural
evidence
changing
of
of bolts.
maintenance. So no evidence of maintenance makes the whole entire Farscape suspect. You write this violation how?
It's the same thing.
Oh my God, it's the same thing. Repair, paint, test. Where does rust come from? The outside of a Farscape or from the inside of a Farscape? That's from the inside. Everything starts in the connection within its first 5 years, right? So this is a 50 to 75-year-old Farscape. Now the third thing you look for, if you couldn't find them on paint, you couldn't find them on structural, can you find them on life safety? And what do we got here for life safety?
We're missing threads.
Missing treads and dangling treads. And you see all the tears on the treads?
So that's a life safety issue.
Because of snow.
So we start teaching the inspectors to keep their eye out and look for
You get a call and somebody
original hardware and no evidence of maintenance, so all these square heads and rivets on the entire Farscape.
What do I do with that
Now,
tread?
one hex head.
Put it back around.
Is it possible for a Farscape to go 50 to 75 years without you changing at least
So
one
what do you
tread
have on
bolt,
this Farscape?
one support
I
bolt?
don't know the address here, but I'm
So
sure
as soon as you look at any Farscape, it's got nothing but original hardware.
Screen rust. We've got an open.
Everything is suspect because it's 50 to 75. And will I load test a 50 to 75-year-old Farscape?
Missing support.
Yeah.
If you let me refurbish, and let's say the connection is in good to excellent condition, and I don't want to change the 50 to 75-year-old, but you let me put a new bolt in the middle of the two,
Doesn't that cover all
can I
those?
then give you a
You need to
certification?
identify all the
Reinforce
wrong that's wrong with it.
Everything's so great, sometimes it's not.
You don't need to
Criminal to
three, you
remove
need
that.
just one.
Can I do reinforce it so that I can do the equivalent? Low test and or equivalent.
Or a
Certification needs the word assurance, the word guarantee.
I have a deterioration
I
violation.
think you use the word guarantee, but when you refer to Farscape, that's supposed to guarantee you're going to get.
Who's going to identify
Or a load
the
test.
hole, the broken tread?
$10,000 worth of repair or $10,000 worth of load testing. This is better for clients.
You don't, if
We'll test an existing structure that's 50 or 75 years old, and like you said, you do it too far, like
You don't need to go beyond.
50 or 75-year-old shears.
You have a little bit of
Who am I gonna sue?
Right, open it by the 20 grand, then I get paid $1,000.
And then they think that we broke it, because you ordered a test. So let me change
If
it.
you run into violation, repair, paint, test. If force.
Gentlemen, Farescape, that's Farescape Engineers. So if you go to Farescape Engineers, every time we do an inspection, whether it be in your city or whatever city, we send you a report to the client. We also, like you said, we notified the client, the engineer, the inspector. It's online. We CC you the link, and this is the link you would get on the typical Farescape inspection today. I'll show you one of the latest that. Yep. This is the last video.
So Cisco, you videotape every single one of your inspections?
Yes. Now we do. I mean, we've been doing it probably for the past 5 years, consistently, and that is to protect both us and the.
Sure, can I ask you a question while
Sure.
you're doing that? You mentioned earlier that there's 8,500 fire escapes in Boston. And when you look at that news video you put on initially, even the inspector was not sure of how many escapes that he had in his city. So my question is, how did you arrive at the 8,500?
Boston actually had, prior to, they sent out, when they had money, a guy to, a group of people to find every fire escape in Boston, and they had an actual file, had 85 known fire escapes, 8,500 known fire escapes. Then through budget cutbacks and everything, that file is now handled by one person.
What time frame was that? What date was that?
That 2003 is when they did the story, but the fire escapes were numbered. I believe it was in probably in '95 that they had this as a known knowledge. Even today, they know that there's 8,500. It was Hank Phillips Ryan that got that number, but I also knew that number because we were told that in Boston there is.
Yeah, that was a result of a collapse in Cambridge or something. And collapsed.
What, that news story?
Yeah.
No, it was because of the Station 9 fire. She was just calling around trying to get a story, and she just happened to call us, and someone said, oh. And because we did so many inspections, we said, by the way, are you aware that on average 75% of the fire escapes I inspect Sorry that this is taking a second. I just need to get you guys up to Academy.
What's he doing Wednesday afternoon?
You're a funny guy.
You never get off the left. One guy off the one around the other.
6 feet high. Why does that never say hold to you?
Actually, I was trying to do one thing when actuality I was to just go to YouTube, and it's right there. So you go to youtube.com. I'm trying to go in my own way, but and then you just type in Farescape Academy. I'm actually going to do engineer, so I can show you an actual inspection. Do search. And on the fire escape engineers, here's some fire escape inspections that we've done. Okay.
Fire escape inspection summary video of the 57 Lakeview Ave fire escape. Fire escape has failed. The inspection has failed. It's got a yellow tag, not a red tag, it's a yellow tag, indicating there's nothing that we can see right now that's a life safety issue. And it failed for the following reasons. It needs a paint job. It's got structural issues inside the wall, so because all these tiers indicate that there's structural issues inside the wall. That chain is illegal. You can't drop this. You can't be controlling this ladder. This ladder either slides straight down or it can be a ladder on the wall that is a fold-out ladder. Or it's got to be under weights controlled 2 to 3 feet per second. This ladder could hurt or kill somebody if it swings out or somebody lets go, or even if that chain lets go. It's got all the original square head bolts, so this fire escape has never been refurbished on its life. So all these bolts are in question right now. So they need to be replaced and or backed up. So anything that's square head is so all major structural needs to be replaced and or backed up with a new bolt. Anything that's non-structural and the square head bolt is deemed to be good and stay.
So minor
And that's one of the reasons why
structures
this fire escape has failed its inspection.
it doesn't
These are
affect
paint job
the life safety issues. All minor can stay.
Quote will indicate.
Rail,
Any questions?
things that are minor.
Engineers,
Major structural must be removed.
866-649-0333. Inspector Meneses inspected this fire escape.
Is that a stucco? What is that?
Masonry.
Masonry?
Yeah.
Arch over it?
And the water goes in. Let me see if there's another. So I'm going to open it up to questions, but basically if you go to Fire Escape Engineers and Fire Escape Academy, we use the YouTube channel to put all our fire escape reports that we send to the client. The client also uses that same report to go to vendors who are bidding the job. They now get a play on what's going on, what needs to be done. They also get the report that's in 7 to 10 days that we give with all the violation photos. The building inspector gets the link to the video plus the photographs. So even if we get knocked out, because the client says, oh, we don't want you doing this fire escape anymore, the building inspector has been made aware that the fire escape needs to have a permit pulled on it, needs to have a confidence test signed at the end. So we've given all our critical information to the building inspector. So that's the important part, is that on this, and this is all industry standard guidelines and information, we'll share, and we have given to many cities, and again, the next classes that we're doing here as well as across the country, because next week I'm actually in Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Tacoma, and LA. These are the same class. Because it just doesn't catch like wildfire. Everything is really down to a grassroots level. Sometimes they want the state to take the lead and disseminate all this information down. Believe it or not, nationwide I've had more effect where I have a local guy saying, you know what, I can't wait for the state. And they have, through the council, put in an ordinance that accepts some guidelines. It's not a state, so they can do it that way. In Seattle, they actually changed the fire code, specific only to Seattle, to not wait for the state to come in and do whatever. We're going out to Portland next week because Portland now on the state level wants to change the code, but they have no guidelines. So, as we spoke about this before, where this can come from me and I can pass it on to you, but a lot of times I pass it on to an individual, but he's doing it in his city, but the local cities are not doing it, and somebody mentions, oh, there's this guy you should be talking to. Yes. Pass all the names to me and I'll speak with as many people as I can, but Sometimes the doors I'm speaking through a closed door, or somebody needs to open the door and just get me in. I'll keep talking because I don't have to invent a lot of the stuff. I'm willing to give it for free. It's already here. A lot of the stuff that I need is, and I think we even did this with Jim. We sent him a what's called an inspection criteria requirement. So we said, hey, you wrote a violation. Here's 3 criteria. The level 1 inspection, and you may remember this, is a visual opinion with all the disclaimers that I can put on my paperwork. Is that what you want to remove this violation? A level 2 is called the calculated load test. A calculated load test involves critical examination, verification, and all that stuff. And that's the certification guarantee that we talked about. And or a level 3 inspection is a live load. And I asked him, which one do you want for your client to remove this violation? I took it off of me because Chicago showed me something. It says, you wrote the violation, what do you want that's considered either a load test or an examination as per your code? And the examination, so we're sort of stepping back, and I don't care what city it is in Massachusetts now. I've sent a letter to the inspector saying, tell me what is going to remove this violation.
And the answer is, explain to me how you satisfy 780 CMR section 1001.
And the refurbishment, will that satisfy you? If I was coming to you and I came and I said, I refurbished it 100% in lieu of a load test. Is that good enough for you?
Comply with the code.
What are you looking for in the code that it means 100 pounds per square foot?
You satisfy.
Yeah, that's my level 2 calculated load test. So I will, if this farscape will take 100 pounds per square foot. You see what he's looking for? Because I'm trying to put the responsibility back on him. He porcupined it back to me and said, okay. I give it back to him. I said, that's a level 2. Will I sign off on a level 1? Which is what everyone in this state is doing. Everybody's signing off level 1s now as we speak. Will you allow, now that you've read the code a little bit more, it just says test or examine. And there's the word certified. It's still in there, right? The word certified stayed in there. What's the word certified mean to you? Is that an equivalency of load test? So just have any engineer, any inspector satisfy you in your city that he's achieved the word load test or certification, and they both mean the same thing to you as per the code. Any questions? And I'll stay here a little while longer after this, but that's pretty much the entire class, which I got recorded. If anybody wants copies of the class, I'm more than happy to share with that in the future video also.
Questions?
Thank you.
I want to get one of my cars. I'll send you some of this information. And if anybody wants what we've done for Framingham, I can send you some of that information that we've done for Framingham. Yeah, we have it. It's part of the Department of Public Safety, right?
Farscape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide.
So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the farscape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this farscape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this farscape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this farscape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the farscape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a farscape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a farscape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire farscape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your farscape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today.
inspector training video. We're here in Westboro. We got Gino back here, state inspector. We got obstructions, we got trees growing. Let's do a quick inspection. If I was the inspector looking at this fire escape, I'm hired as a fire escape inspector. I'll tell you what I found wrong with the fire escape. First of all, we got obstructions, we got a lot of rust. We've got this thing deteriorating into the ground. So all these treads can actually, you can actually just rip these treads. If I was to hammer test, I got rust growing in here. If I was to hammer test, this is where inspectors get hurt. They go up, and sometimes this thing will fall from an, look at this, Gene. See, if you look at that side, you think that thing was going to give way if an inspector came down unknowingly?
Oh, yeah, it's ready to go.
So this is ready to go. This is a loading dock, so this gets used all the time. So now I'll be careful going up because I'm looking for certain things. I got all this grading is supported at the nose, and this grading is supported at the back, and this whole rear is all rotted out. So, so now we've got loads of material coming in here, and so imagine some poor kid putting out a couch, a refrigerator,
The actual
and the
angle
rear.
end is gone.
The channel is gone. So if you get underneath there, Viv, and you just, poke your nose underneath there, and shoot that thing.
Channel end is completely gone.
Now this is taking couches, refrigerators, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's missing its rail here, and a lot of times this is a chain rail.
That's right. Yeah.
So usually, if any kids get over here playing around, they could fall. So it's usually missing a passing rail. Look at the supports into the ground, how they're rotting, because it's just cemented into the ground as opposed to being sitting on a pillar. That's another problem there. There's some welds here that I can't verify, but as soon as I put a bolt through here, I can verify this weld here by putting a couple of bolts in here. So whenever you get welds, I basically nullify the weld by putting in bolts. Look at all this rust growing in here.
Boy.
Okay.
That really shows you how much it will push out.
Yeah, it'll push out. A quarter inch will go to 1 inch. Wow. Now, if I'm going to go up,
another obstruction with a tree.
Yeah, another tree. It's a very popular thing to have trees. A lot of people let vines grow. These vines will take a fire escape over in no time. Now, this whole fire escape is welded. Because it looks like they used to have treads here, and they came in and took the treads out and put in new ones. Do you see these rusty tears coming down?
I do.
That's an indication that whoever welded these, and they usually weld the nose and the back, a piece in the back. The water gets in from above and starts eating these trees. So even though visually the weld looks good from the outside, there's usually only a quarter of them percent left when you step on it and the weld gives way. Let me see if I can find one that's ready to give on the way up. And that's on this side. If you look up, straight up here, you're going to see quite a bit.
That's it. That's the one that's in.
Okay, so all these rusty tears are indicators that water's coming in from above.
The next couple of beds.
Okay, now as you can see, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the grading up here.
Yeah.
So all this fire escape was kind of put together. So all these brackets and all these connectors here. See, the only way I can guarantee this weld, if it's not a rust build, all I have to do to not weld this, and you can't because of the EPA requirements, you can't weld on fire escapes. As soon as I put in 2 structural bolts here, 2 structural bolts there, then I seal this up with silicone. I don't have to verify the building. This angle needs to be open. This corner angle needs to be open. Right. But she's legged to the ground, so that's she's just pulling out because freeze and thaw gets in here. Water gets in here, freeze and thaw keeps pulling, but it's a lag screw into an anchor into the wall. It needs a full paint job because it hasn't seen paint. And it's an all welded fire escape, so a lot of times, Gene, see this connection right here? All these connectors to avoid verification process. As soon as I blow some holes through them, I got this stringer welded to this thing. As soon as I put an angle clip in here, put 2 bolts in it, I've eliminated the need what could be a very good weld. But because I don't want to spend any money x-raying it, it's cheaper to put a bolt through with a clip. So this would here would take a bolt. This would here would take a bolt. Otherwise, verify that weld. So as you start coming down, you can see that the worst part of this fire escape is down here. To the point that there's even a dip in the grading because there's some heavy load coming in and out. Is this considered a life safety issue in your opinion? knowing the traffic that comes through here,
Yes.
is somebody going to get hurt with a refrigerator, loading a fridge,
Absolutely. Potentially.
and it's never the owner. It's always Joe, helper. Now, even these treads, as you can see, the day that you can start grabbing steel that is welded and connected, and if you want, you can. You're not supposed to do this with steel. I mean, the only thing fighting me is this tree. It's not the steel anymore. And this is a good point. Even though it's the final tread, look what rust did to the connector. And that's the stringer, it's all rotted. Okay? So that's the power of rust left unchecked. Now, the cement issue on the ground, the bulges. Now I'm going to give you an answer right here. What we tell the clients to do, because snow will accumulate here. You clean this up, you're going to find a foundation of some kind. We get a sono tube, about 12 inches. A piece of sono tube. Rip it in half. Do this. Sit it on top of the old sono. You bring it up 6 to 12 inches above grade. Now, this thing is already in the cement. It's already wrong. Because you're not supposed to put steel or wood inside cement. Building code doesn't allow. I'm already too far gone on this one. But if I raise this 8 to 12 inches of cement, sono wrapped around, I drilled some holes, put a couple of rebars in the old cement to sort of marry the two together. Prior to that, I grabbed roofing tar, and I gooped with my hands in a glove. I gooped this whole thing up to 12 inches with tar. Then I wrap it in cement, and then I fill it with about 6 inches so that whenever there's snow, more than 6 inches of snow is what's going to be needed. But it's tarred 12 inches. So that whenever there's snow accumulating down here, it's sitting on top of tar. And then the last thing I put on this, when there's a new piece of cement, sono, I put in a clip that sits on top of the sono. Bolted here and sitting so that as this rots, and this will rot, what's inside will rot away, the new clip on top is the new foot. What's wrong is sitting inside, but I can't do anything about it because they already built it wrong. But there's things you can do with that. Scrape and paint, older than 1978, so EPA renovator's license is required. You need a permit to pull. You can't do any work on this fire escape. No welding allowed. So it's all bolted, so I can secure every one of these treads by coming here and putting in 2 bolts. I drilled 2 3/8 holes. Do I have to guarantee these welds anymore? No. As soon as I put in the 2 bolts, I've nullified the weld. I still will try to seal it on top so water doesn't get in there anymore. 50-year silicone is a great thing to have.
Actually, we're actually missing the 9 here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an unsupported piece of grading. There you go. And you can actually.
Yeah, we got work to do here.
Yeah.
We got to
So
start writing.
these are the kind of things, because you get very few of these fire escapes are kind of whipped into a shape like this one. This is kind of brought here, and some guy had pieces, and he created this fire escape system. Most fire escapes, believe it or not, are built to standard, built to code. This, every now and then, there's one that's shoehorned in, and this is one of those that is kind of shoehorned in. But that's all you have to worry about is, do they know what to look for? Do they know what to expect? How do you deal with a welded fire escape versus a bolted fire escape? And all the codes associated. But if you have a permit that you pull, and you are the one overseeing that to make sure that the vendor who's doing the work is correct, and then there's the confidence test, is just the sign-off. Meaning, if I'm going to oversee this job, the engineer has to oversee. So there's 3 to 5 visits required by an engineer. So that if he's watching this and he's going to be signing, he can't do an initial inspection and a final inspection 6 months from now. He must schedule and get paid for by the owner an initial inspection review. The vendor is starting to do the work. He must show up when the vendor's working, watch the job, make sure it's going according to his standard, come in the middle of the job, come in the 3/4 of the job, and then do a final. Because he's signing off on a certification. right, so, is it on?
Yep.
Okay, Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training video. We're here with Gene Novak, right? State Inspector. And what we're going to be doing, we're in town of Westboro. We just finished doing an Academy training class, and we're doing what's called a downtown walk around, and we're just going to look at this fire escape as an example, and all around this fire escape, there's several types of the same type of fire escape that don't have cantilevers, that have ladders. So we're going to show you, and he's going to pass this on to all the members, and this is a YouTube link that basically it's going to be a 3 to 5 minute video. It could be 10 minutes because we're going to walk all the way around the building. But what an inspector has to do to no longer ever step on these things. All fire escape inspections can be done right from the ground. And there's two things. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So let's start off with the first one. Whether or not there's a violation here. If you could have gone in this building for something else, a permit of some kind, only to walk out here and identify that the fire escape is or has not been painted. So, first question, more rust than paint or more paint than rust?
Hey, this is about 50-50.
50-50?
So it's clearly a concern.
It's been, and in order for this much rust, just so you know, it takes over 25 years for this much rust to grow, of no paint job. And that's a proven fact, that it takes over 25 years to let this much grow. So let's say they knew you were coming. Last week, you gave out a notice that said, hey, I'm coming to your building, I'm going to do an inspection, and I'm checking your fire escape. So a building owner was like, oh man, I'm not going to pass. He gets Joe Painter to come out and do a quick paint job on this, and it happens all the time. They want to mask it. Because a lot of times, you only need that you're looking for a paint job, and a lot of times the paint job can hide a lot. So let's assume it's all painted now. The second thing you're looking for is for testing, structural adequacy. This building is 50 to 75 years old or older, and the fire escape is original to the building, but every connection on this is original. So usually in 50, 75 years, you've seen some sort of maintenance, and that maintenance could be changing of bolts, because to know that it's original hardware, you're looking at rivets or square head bolts.
Square heads, yeah.
And you're looking for evidence of any bulges in the connection plates of any kind. So, without even looking for structural problems such as missing treads or anything, do you notice any new hardware? Anything? Any new little bolt?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So the largest square we see some heads on the stringer.
There you go. So it looks like they came in and did something with the staircase, and there's some hex heads. So if you want to zoom in on those stringers, you see some hex heads there.
We also see some type of flange underneath looks like an add-on underneath the shred.
Okay, so it looks like they created a bracket to hold the old shred up above. All right, let's see what the old treads look like. Because are they welded or are they so let's look over here. If you look in here, look at the original treads. Are they bolted or welded? Do they look like a certified welder to those? They do not. Even with your lack of experience as what is a certified inspection of a weld, you can see that it's kind of not the greatest. And did they repaint it after it was done?
I tell you, it doesn't look like they cleaned the welds off.
They didn't clean the welds, they didn't paint it.
I mean, they weren't inspected. We have a new tread here.
Right. So here's a new tread, a new piece of galvanized. So we've got some evidence of maintenance. Now, let's take a look at, if you look straight up, can you see any bulges in the clips of the treads that they just welded? You know, little rust tears, or can you see that? Especially that one.
Yes.
Now, especially that one, and Viv, if you can come in here.
I did already. I got
See
it.
the broken weld? See, welds snap, bolts stretch. So if I'm going to leave the rust inside a connection, 1 year, when the rust grows another 8, what happens to that weld? Just snaps. So is weld a means of repair for any fire escape? No. Fire escapes in the summer do this. They expand and do this. And in the winter they cool and contract and they do this. Now when you weld it, it does this. So that's why 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes. They're supposed to move with the building and they're supposed to cool with the building. That's why all fire escapes are bolted. Very few are welded. And a lot of times, do you think when they weld it, they seal it up above so no water gets inside? Do you think water is getting inside those welds right now and basically eating the weld from inside out? So it makes it so you can't weld. So let's go step back. Let's take a look at the rest of the hardware. Square or square head or hex head? So the weights, nobody's done anything on this weight box.
Large bulbs right there.
Large bulbs. If you step back here, you're going to see some large bulbs over here. This whole connector, this joiner over here. See some bulging happening here?
Yep.
Let's look at the gussets over here. Original or square heads?
Original.
All right, and look over here, straight up. Look at this gusset, straight up. If you come over here, then take a look at this gusset. And now, it's rust inside the connection. Yeah. Now, look, if you come over here, G, look at that gusset way back there. You see a bulge on the top? Doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right? But do you even care whether or not on this 50 to 75-year-old fire escape, whether this gusset is beautiful, that gusset is compromised, and that gusset is compromised? Will an engineer load test a fire escape that has 50, 75, or 100-year-old square original hardware? Do you think he would want to? You wouldn't want to. Now, if I came in here and I just took out some of these bolts and I put in new bolts in the connections, one at a time, or if this one is in great condition, do you think I could squeeze another bolt between them? You think I could squeeze some other new holes in there? So I have a choice. In preparation for this thing for a load test, if I find square head bolts that are in good to excellent condition, and I don't want to change them out, I can actually reinforce them by backing them up with another bolt. But sometimes it's faster for me to take an old bolt out and put a new bolt in than it is for me to drill a new one next to it. So whatever's cheaper to the client, we'll prepare it for a load test. So this original hardware, I can't load test this platform, but I can refurbish this platform in lieu of a load test.
Where is this primary attachment to the building? I don't see it.
The attachment to the building is going to come, let me see if I can see the two bolts. See right here. If you look straight up there, you can see that the two bolts into the building up there. Oh, sorry. And I think there's two bolts here that basically tie you into the building. It's actually above.
No, it's right there in the corner. Right in that corner, there's a hole that goes right in.
Yeah.
Right at the corner.
Yeah. There's this is basically, it's got a backing plate inside, even though it's a brick structure. And there's a rod that comes out, and then that rod, if you look up there, there's 3 bolts that come out. So the rod comes out round 1 inch, and then they smash it and they flatten it, and it becomes 3 bolts that connect to the angle. So you see 3 of them right there.
Okay.
And there's more that you can see. So let's move forward into the cantilever. Must be balanced and must drop 2 to 3 feet per second. This is the release arm.
Yeah.
So I can't break into this building because this release arm won't let me pull the cantilever down.
I don't even know how it works. It's just you turn
As soon as it blocks your way. Single action requiring no special knowledge, and when you push it away, it turns.
It's not even open.
No, it turns.
Yeah.
No, see, it's resting on the top. It's trying to drop.
Oh, okay, I see.
See, it wants to go up, so it stops. So that's a permanent release arm. When you release it, the thing will drop 2 to 3 feet per second, look around and stay down. Let's take a look at some other things. We see some bending on the cantilever arm. Yeah. Now, they've obviously refurbished a lot of the treads on this whole fire escape. Right? Just to make it balance. And sometimes they add weight. This is perfect. Because now we're looking at from down here, so we can move on to this one. Can you tell me whether or not those are original or new? Alright, so when I load test that, so you want to see refurbishment or rebolting of the major critical connections. That is all the treads. You see all the treads rebolted. Are you satisfied that all the treads have been rebolted on this fire escape? There's evidence of maintenance, right? You can see it, right? So that means somebody refurbished the tread system. What about platforms, have they been refurbished? No. All right. So you want that now taken care of before you'll allow this. You need a load test here too, right?
Yeah, it looks like there's something missing at the top. You see a green line out
Nope. A lot of times there's not going to be any boxing or anything like you see over there. It doesn't need the grading is what ties it all together. But now with that happening here, let's move over to this little one. You know what this is? This is called a fold-out ladder. You know how these work. This won't even, this actually is supposed to fold up if it was properly working. This folds up into itself and it looks like a drain pipe. And you only release it from above. And when you release it, it does this. This is 7 to 9 feet off the ground. I'm supposed to jump to the remaining portion. But do you trust every one of these rivets on this ladder without a load test? If I load test this, will that be sufficient for you? Okay, otherwise can I give you another alternative? If I was to take out each one of these rivets and put in a new bolt here, well then, will you be then satisfied? That would be a certification. In lieu of a load test, you want refurbishment, reinforcement in lieu of a load test. Because that's what the law says, right? Examination or a load test.
These are hollow rivets?
No, they're through, but they're one piece. But the water's getting in there. Can you, if you see that everything's been compromised. Original square heads. You test this, see the rust inside there? Yeah. Even though it's a 16 to an 8, do you think that rust has compromised these bolts? So in order for somebody to guarantee this to you, as soon as I take out those 2 bolts, which is pretty fast, I don't need to verify them anymore. I can just change the bolts. So refurbishment is what gives you the guarantee. Let's take a look at this one. Do you see any cement problems?
Oh yeah. Repointing needed.
Perfect. Look at the gussets. Do you see any bulges in the gussets? Especially this right one.
Oh yeah.
So you already see that, and even if you couldn't see original hardware or new hardware anywhere on this fire escape system. No new hardware. So it's impossible for something that's 50 to 75 years old not to have some sort of refurbishment to satisfy you as the inspector. What about paint job? Needs a paint job or no paint job? And the fact that this thing's down, this is a break-in issue. People can break into the building, but if this thing was properly greased and properly bolted, you can close this up now. There's nobody breaking into this building. Okay, now let's walk this way. There's a fixed fire escape ladder right here. And if anything's whole temperature weight, how heavy are these to fall on somebody's head?
Yeah, this looks like it's bent a little bit.
Right, it's bulging.
Oh yeah,
how about back here?
Quite a bit, yeah. Yeah, it needs refurbishment.
Okay, and if you can get in there and look at the this is about 1,000 pounds worth of weight here.
Now, is this concrete or?
No, that's solid steel. It's cast iron. Okay, now look at back here.
Yeah.
You think that's holding it?
Yeah.
So the rivets that hold the whole angle, they're gone. And look at the nut, it's gone. You come back here and shoot this. And then what about this corner? The frame, is that corner good?
That's bulging.
So this fire escape is structurally unsound. Did you have to climb on this fire escape to make that assessment?
No.
So we've done a cantilevered unit. You've looked up 3 stories. We've done a balcony with a folding ladder. Let's go to the front of this building. And again, this much rust takes 25 years of non-paint, never paint job. Again, you're on a physical inspection on the building. You happen to walk out and notice there's a fire escape. More rust than paint or more paint than rust? Needs a paint job. So if you only want to write a violation on just the maintenance part, that's all you need. Because whether you write a violation on paint or structural, it always requires the 5-year anyway. Both of them are going to get you the same thing. So now let's look up structurally. Any evidence of any maintenance anywhere. But you're the first thing you look for is any new hex heads anywhere to your knowledge. So if you don't see one new hex head in 50, 75, or 100 years of this building, has anybody ever structurally touched this fire escape? So, do you need to go any further? You want to get out a window and climb on it and test it with your body? You want to do a live load test?
No.
You know?
In fact, there's a chain here.
Correct. That chain is because this too is a fold-out ladder. This thing is, if you could,
It's supposed to be up.
oh yeah, this one's slow.
Oh yeah, that could be up.
It does move. It's not tall enough.
So that should be.
And that's a break-in. But now with propulsion, the original here, so nobody can ever load test this. You got bulges, especially on this one. Look how big the bulge is. So you got unsupported platform. Let's take a look into the building. Do you see any cement connections that are tearing up? You know, and you look like they've been doing some repointing anyway. But did they verify it back into the building? All right, let's take a look at this one. So they can have this, but now we're in obstruction. They can take that pole and put it up there. Okay. But right now, the guy took advantage of something, and that's obstructing firemen from getting up to people from getting down. But again, more paint than rust or more rusted paint?
More rusted, yeah.
More rusted paint? And what about structurally? Any evidence of any maintenance in the history of this fire escape that you can identify on the rail, on the gusset?
A little repointing, but nothing in the fire escape.
Now, one bolt in 75 years. It's impossible. And no engineer will load test this.
In fact, we have a
Yeah. A lot of times it's because as the iron grows, it snaps lentils and it snaps stone. So anything else? How about the corners on the rails? And this thing is a fire escape deck. You see how it's moving? The opposition, and then when you release it, it comes down. Alright, so now there's one last fire escape. Let's come over here.
And lastly, there's an air conditioner and
Exactly.
in this one, so you have another obstruction.
Obstruction,
Two
yeah. No ACs in the windows, correct? No flower pots on the fire escape. Now this is just one building. And you didn't come out for a fire escape inspection. You came out for some other form of inspection. So let's see if this one. So if this thing was greased, when you release it from above, so now if it's closed, I can't break it in the building. It's not properly attached here. It used to be here, so it's not properly attached. And when you release it and it was properly greased, it's supposed to do this. It comes down and people come down. Oh yeah, the whole thing. So now let's down here. You can see a lot more of the cement situations. Now let's talk about the cement. You want me to blow that hole open and verify that it's properly connected into the building, or do you want a new epoxy bolt next to it?
New epoxy bolt.
For what reason? Because I can make $250 per examination, but I can only make $25 per new epoxy bolt. So is it really what's better for the client? Whatever's cheaper and faster for the client. So instead of me verifying that obviously looks like a good thing, but it's unverifiable without some form of destructive testing, which means right next to it I drill a 3/4 hole next to the steel, and then I put in a probe and I start photographing it whichever way I can to prove to you with photographs that, but instead 3 to 5 inches away, I put a new bolt, put a Hilti epoxy bolt, mechanically fasten it back to this one, make sure this one is properly packed. Now the unknown, it's called the invisible connection, has now been duplicated. So it's ever cheaper, verification of the connection or duplication, whatever's cheaper to the client. Otherwise, the only other way for me to guarantee the wall, even after I've done all my rebolting, let's say I've rebolt 100% of the guarantee. It says I can't. I must load test it. Because it's an unknown. How it ties into the building is unknown. And loading a load test is going to prove to me whether it can handle. Or, to avoid the costly load test, if you let me epoxy bolt it into the wall, I don't need a load test because I've refurbished 97% of the fire escape with new bolts, which I'll be able to physically show you. Photographed of every one of these bolts will be new hex head bolts. All my joints will be sealed with silicone. The fire escape will be primed and painted. The EPA law applies here too. Is this older than 1978? I must have a renovator's license. I must pull a permit. If I'm going to touch this fire escape, change one bolt, do I need a permit?
Well, Cisco, I must say your strategies work well here because you mentioned the square bolt, you mentioned the hex-head bolt, you can see the hex-head bolt here. And it's top of this ladder. We can actually see the old holes. Yeah. They actually relocated the ladder.
Yeah. And
apparently there's a maintenance on it, which is not
right. But if I do all those things and I seal it up, the only thing left for you to get the word guarantee or the word certification from me is let me load test it. And I won't load test it unless I change all the bolts. So there's even a preparation process, getting it ready for a load test. And the other thing is the connection you have known to the wall. Now, let's say this was welded. Let's say this was welded, there was no bolts here. How do I verify the weld? Without an expressive x-ray machine. But as soon as I blow a hole, if this was welded and I blow a hole through here, not even welded, forget it, I don't care about the welding, but I put a new bolt. As soon as I bolt it and I back up my weld, now my weld can stay. I seal it still so that water doesn't get inside and eat that weld anyway, but my bolt now is my primary. So the only unknowns on fire escapes are welded connections, which we back up with a bolt, unknown connections into the building, which we either verify through a very expensive destruction process, or we epoxy bolt next to it. But otherwise, 97% of this fire escape, I'm able to make an opinion on right away that says I got original hardware, which I won't allow a load test on. But as soon as I reinforce or replace every one of these bolts and give this thing a paint job, I can then give you a certification with no disclaimers. Is that as good as it gets instead of a load test? So all you're looking for from all your inspectors is to not take opinion tests anymore, which they say is very clear. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is structurally sound and has been kept painted. Those are unacceptable.
So we're maximizing public safety.
This is a national strategy now because more and more people learn about this, that it's this simple. Don't have your inspectors come out the window and step on this and do an evaluation from above. Don't have them do an inspection where they come down a set of stairs all the way to the ground. They're taking their lives in their own hands because at any time a tread can give way, a support can give way. All these things basically repeat themselves. So whether this is a 1-story or a 10-story, they don't fix all these stories except for the first floor. So whatever you see for the first floor usually repeats itself on all the floors. So if they're not maintaining the first floor, do you think they're maintaining the second? So every inspection for fire escapes is now at ground level. And if you have binoculars, it'll help. But otherwise, everything is with a naked eye.
This is extremely educational. I think that's what we need, training and education.
Well, we'll send this out as a link to you, and you can send it out to as many of your constituents and members of your association, and they can watch it on YouTube night and day.
Thank you.